So one day I was going to take a shower and I heated the shower up and I wanted to see if the mirror was fogged or not. So then I jumped as strong as I could and I saw the saddest part of the story I'm going to tell you. The mirror wasn't fogged. This is what I call the pre-hospital area. This is day 1, the onset. And then, right after, I noticed, hey, my back hurts. And then I sat down to... After I stood up and went back to eat pizza, watch TV, pet my cat and do stuff as usual, the pain in my tailbone and headache. So I told my parents about that. They said that they think it's meningitis. I told this to my friend, which was the third person to find out about this case, and he said that this might be torsicollis. My mom said that we should go to the doctor, and then I asked ChatGPT, and it said that I can't breathe directly and I should seek a doctor. On the next morning, my mom brought me to a doctor. She was very nice. I told her everything that happened. And, spoiler alert, the thing didn't even have anything to do with jumping in the shower at all, so it didn't make a difference. One thing I asked for the doctors for them to give me a certificate of sickness so I don't need to go to school for 2 days. I guess I got that. I was already getting kinda nervous since I was there for over half an hour and I wanted to get out since I thought it was just a small consultation and they would just give me a few pills and I would be home again. But I was severely wrong, and they asked me for a body scan and left me in a bed inside a room for kids. I sat down there and, after a few minutes of asking my mom for her cell phone, she gave me her cell phone and I happily scrolled Reddit for like 10 seconds until a nurse came in with that thing. It's a horror beyond imagination, leaves my biggest nightmares by far worst part about the hospital. It wasn't the food, it wasn't the nausea, it wasn't even the meningitis itself. It was the IV machine. You get to why this is bad, but for now, she just injected saline solution in my hand. I remember once when I was going to the bathroom, a nearby nurse asked me if I wanted to go in a wheelchair to make things easier. But I said no, just because I thought that me going in the wheelchair is just something so dystopian. The doctor was about to discharge me, but at the very end, I started having fever, and they also probably knew something was off when one of the strongest painkillers they had did nothing. If they didn't notice anything and just discharged me, I probably wouldn't be alive to make this video. Going to the bathroom was also a big hustle, since the bathroom was very far away. One thing that was also extremely annoying was a 4-year-old kid who just refused to let the door open. I went there and closed the door, leaving me completely defenseless. Luckily, his mom told him to open, but he still refused. Like, can't you see that I can't go there and open the door? Come on, if you're in my situation, we're going to get annoyed by that too. I sat it in and told him to open the door. I was wanting to put that IV things, I understand. The fact that it was already decided that we were going to stay here for some days didn't make the situation much better. After some time we did our MRI scan. Then we moved to a different, much better, with a super technological chair and an AC. This is the early days era. A pizzeria was right beside us, making me want to eat so bad, but unfortunately not being able to eat anything here. At least I had my plushie. During the entire time I was at the hospital, I had a ChatGPT chat called Hospital Hub. That one that I started at the start of the video. During this time, I had my mom's cell phone, and the doctor just chat about every time something new happened. That's probably the biggest sort of information we have. It's kind of a diary to think about. I said things like that, found you a much better room, had TV and a very technological bed. There was also no kids nearby, so I sat on the bed, realized that I had a huge headache when I transitioned from stood to sit, so I avoided doing that. I slept again. Woke up and then ate bread that generally tastes like plastic, and every bite of it gave me a headache. The good news is that nothing shows up to be wrong at the tomography, And the bad news is that the situation gets worse every day. Maybe today was a little better than yesterday, but still. I'm at the hospital typing this, still at bed, and still with headache. After a bunch of doom scrolling Reddit, after some time of waiting, a bunch of doctors came out and said that they are going to be collecting the spinal tap, which is the liquid that is in the spinal cord. I think. They sedated me, making me sleep and hallucinate. I was thinking of the room moving around, seeing my mom say something to the doctor, and the doctor turn into a ballerina. We going upstairs. It was just crazy. I started waking up. I felt that my feet were massive and my hands were small, and saw my mom there, saying hi. I thought I was in a dream, so I didn't reply back. That's how lucid dreams do. Wait, does this mean I'm in a lucid dream right now? Anyways, after some time I woke up from everything. The entire day felt so short, but that's because I wasn't awake for most of the time there. After some time of waking up, my mom told me that what happened while I was asleep. She told the doctor not to try again and again, only one attempt. Then the doctor got angry at her, saying that she knew what she was doing, and she was canceling the procedure. My mom didn't feel secure, so they reported the procedure. We assumed that they never tried to this day. There were consequences of the sedation. I vomited after some time, which is something that I do extremely rarely. After a hard sleeping session, cycling sleep around into my favorite sleep position, I woke up. This is day 2, tears and fear. I immediately started feeling nauseous, saw 2 people, and needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't notice this yet, but going from stood up to seated or from stood up to sitting down and doing things like that are really painful, and I needed to go to the bathroom, and I started feeling a lot of numbness. There were things around my face and my entire sight was turning dark. One day when I woke up, I had an allergic reaction to something, so I couldn't see anything and could barely move. Then I remembered that I would be at home gaming if it wasn't because I jumped in the box, so I'm here and torturing myself. The doctor and my mom said that I was turning paler, and while I was going to the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror and started questioning what has brought me here. Why have I went from being in my comfy house, living my life, to this living hell with pain and suffering? That was probably the lowest point in my life. After I came back, everything was back to normal. After that night, we switched rooms, now in a new room, which is the same thing with better view, and hope you get used to this one because it is the room we are staying in for the rest of the time I was at the hospital. By the way, here are a couple pictures of the videos that I took while I was there. I forgot to mention that both rooms had a TV, but they didn't have YouTube, so they practically useless. On this day, or on the next day, I really remember, a doctor came around. I immediately saw that he looked like a teacher of mine, but he was actually really nice and likes ping pong, just like me, and encouraged me to keep playing and buy a racket and a table. To this day, I haven't bought a table because of how expensive shipping is, but it is really nice to see a doctor like this. He didn't sedate me and did the procedure while awake. It was painful to get into proper position, but after that, the spinal tap was there. I had meningitis. This may seem like a bad news, but for the next days, every time I had a fever or anything really, I didn't feel scared at all. I will still have meningitis anyways. This will be a different story if it was cancer or something. Then we will enter to what I call the work age. This is day 3, settling in. And all of the next days are pretty similar. I just eat, wait, place a rest, work, and sleep. Most of these days blend in my head, so I don't remember what happened on each exact day. But I remember that once I worked from a Danny movie by making the voiceover. Once I spent so much time playing Celeste Beginner Live, then my back started hurting again and kept hurting to this day. I mean, for months, not to this day. And when my mom took me for a walk and then looked to the ground below and thought about how crazy it is that I would spend this much time in this building. I never spent so much time in a single place in my life. So, sorry if I sound like a grumpy old man saying this. Kids, when you are there waiting for the doctor, I start complaining because it takes too long for you to get home. I lived through that for over a week, so just shut up and sit down. I'm going to mention some things that are happened in some of the days, and I'm going to be giving each one a label so you can understand what I was feeling on each day. If you didn't notice, I'm also including in here what I felt on each day of editing, so you can feel the amount of time spending this. In this part, this thing that ChatGPT said is really coming in handy. Wait, so does this mean that I have to include that my video was made or partially made by AI? I'm kinda scared. I just thought that what will happen if I say no in that checkbox. At the time, the fever was fluctuating very often. I spent like 99% of the days lying down. It wasn't that bad because the bed was super technological. It could go up, down, move a part of the middle, move the upper part of the bed, and it was all awesome. And yeah, let's talk about the food. It was often varied. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad, sometimes it tasted like actual plastic, but overall, it was okay. Maybe the reason why the food tasted bad sometimes because of the lack of taste that the disease gives you. Now you might be thinking, hey, that doesn't sound that bad. I could leave that through pretty easily. Maybe with a few snacks along the way. That's because I didn't told you the worst part. I mean, I did, but I didn't tell you why. The reason it sucks so much is because of the IV machine. I know that it is the reason why I was getting better, and why I even survived this meningitis thing overall. And also, most of these problems don't come from the IV machine exactly. I mean, putting stuff in your vein is always gonna like hurt, but I never thought it would hurt this much. See, the first time they put the axis, which is the place where the solution enters, nothing really hurts that much. But after a few hours, things start to get really bad, and I had to change one every day outside of the last day. But the part that is truly the worst is when they insert a type of saline solution to clean the vein. For some reason, this hurts so much, and the more that I put in, the more sensible it becomes until it reaches a point where it hurts so much that they have to remove it. I'm getting to the more in-depth experiences with the IV machine, but in normal days, it starts off unnoticeable in the first couple minutes, and then it starts to hurt a little, but nothing too much. I do have to ask my mom to hold my hand, or I have to hug my squishmallow, his name's Emil by the way, to get through this clean solution, the axis I mean. Then at the end, stuff starts to get really bad, and they switch the axis to a new place. They did this 7 times, twice on the first day, and none on the last day. I still do have visible marks when the axes were placed, and they do hurt when I pushed against the wall. The room I was in was pretty small, but it had the essentials: a bed, a closet, and a bathroom. Well, better than most rooms in Japan. I spent the most of the time I was there was really bored, and my ways of entertainment was we're watching the news, which for me was basically just a very weird soundtrack. When my parents are there, I interact with them, like when I talk to and play cards with my mom or watch TV with my dad. But I mostly spend the time gaming, especially beating Strawberry Jam Beginner Lobby, which I beat in just barely 4 hours, which I think is quite impressive considering I was at the hospital in a super uncomfortable position at the time. Other thing I did was working. I worked on the farm of tanning, which you should absolutely check out in the link in the description, making some descriptive voiceover. The voiceover did sound kind of trash, and to be honest, I mostly recorded that as a joke. I especially liked when my parents bought me snacks, like boiled eggs and sausage roll. But hey, the hospital doesn't allow other foods inside. Silence. Let's get through this day by day. On day 4, the cycle begins. I noticed how hard it is to use the computer when my hands were connected to the IV. Time passed extremely slowly. I liked to daydream and look outside of the window when I wasn't at the computer. Talking about the window, there was a bird nest living inside a lamp outside the window. Some idiot decided it was a good idea to get up there to see what's going on because they thought it was a bed and they were scared. So he went upstairs only to get jump scared by the bird, knocking the bird nest down and knocking him down the stairs, making him fall down and get injured on his hand. Only 2 workers laughing at him. At least that's what my mom said that happened. I wasn't watching. I also like saw the birds going outside and fly, and the bird nest, and you know, birds living. Nights were always horrible since I couldn't sleep in my favorite sleeping position, sideways to the left holding a mirror. But then on day 5, disaster struck. This is what I call the dark ages. I first found out that it will take 7 to 10 days to get out of the hospital, and by that thought it meant 7 to 10 more days to get out of the hospital, making the situation much worse. But there's a problem with the AV machine I didn't told you about yet. Sometimes it bugs out and it checks more than it should. This causes the solution to go in much faster than it should. This causes a bunch of sensitivity in the vein, and when this stacks up to the whole day, stuff gets really painful, especially considering that I was taking a very strong saline solution. But at the end of the day, it was getting a little too much, since the last saline solution was really painful. So I told the doctor, "Hey, can you please redo the access? Stuff is getting really bad." The doctor said, "Are you sure this is needed? It is at least like 3 days until it becomes sensitive." But I insisted, and this continued for some time, so the doctor said, "Alright, sure, but first we have to clean with the access with the saline solution." Because I immediately thought, "No, this is gonna hurt." And then the solution entered, and then it literally burst into tears due to the IV pain. Yes, it's that bad. I was low-key turning into Isaac. After crying for some 2 minutes, my mom showed up with sausage rolls, which made me feel a little better. Then I took a bath, which I did every day and it's kind of trash. Next up on day 6, quiet resilience, now on the waiting age. This day was kind of boring. Now things are kind of starting to brush off, pain started to fall away, and I was overall finishing my recovery. I do remember when a doctor said that I looked like a 7-year-old child while I was waiting there on the first day. That didn't hit well. For this night, I actually slept well, being able to hug a meal properly and manage to finally rest. Like, just imagine thinking about sickness, disease, and hospital for 7 days straight. It's pretty bad to be honest. This whole situation for me at the hospital could have been much worse. Like, I do have some sequel, like a fake nausea that I feel pretty often, but outside of that I was mostly untouched, especially considering I could have become paraplegic or just outright died. On day 7, the third, the fear disappeared and IV pain decreased significantly. We found out that we were going to go home today, and I got super excited to finally leave the hospital, only to find out that I wasn't. It was on tomorrow morning, but it still meant the same thing. By the way, this is the longest video on my channel recorded in a single sitting. And then on day 8, discharge. I woke up in the morning, ate my breakfast, went to the bathroom, the report of my stay and described me as a child. I said goodbye to the baby bird down the window, the story was starting in, and all my grief and relief that I felt while I was at the hospital, and got discharged. This is what I call home. On the first few days that I got home, the house generally just felt like a hospital without the IV, but over time I started recovering. Yeah, this video took me a long time to make. The hardest part by far was just drawing these pictures. I know they look awful, but each one of these takes forever and only lasts for a few seconds. I mean, I could just put me playing Minecraft in the background or any other game really, or like some satisfying videos, or just nothing, I don't know, or some Google pictures or something else, but that is something that anyone can do, and just make the video completely soulless. Like, imagine how horrible Carrie Keyhole's videos will be if he did that. There is also the situation I'm going through right now. Trust me, that ain't fake nausea, ain't feel so good, but so I probably shouldn't be working right now, but here I am. I was mostly pretty negative about the hospital, but they kind of saved my life, so I gotta say thanks for them. There are a bunch of problems, but there's a bunch of problems with everything, and I do think that I really appreciate what they did to me and managed to heal me and managed to make it so I am alive, to be making this video and get home. Anyways, I was super excited to go back home and enjoy my life, just like how it was before. Oh,